Hello, everybody. I had something very exciting planned. I was going to play the entirety of Steamboat Willie, all 7 minutes, but apparently the House of Mouse is still striking it in other countries.
Bastard.
So in the bastion of freedom that is the United States, you can still listen or watch Steamboat Willie on YouTube, but I guess in Europe and other countries, Disney is still striking it. So
we were so close to having Steamboat Willie on the show himself as a guest, as a featured guest.
It was a big get for us. We were really looking forward to it, but
bastards,
not to be. So
the episode sucks. We are really, Ben and I are really just into Steamboat Willie. Last night I did send a frantic audio message to Ben about the concept of things entering the public domain, and Ben immediately countered it, but I was in a frantic mode of why is it that when something enters the public domain, everyone's first move is to make it scary or make it fuck or something like that? What if I wanted to make Steamboat Willie fucking sad? What if I wanted to make him miserable? Okay.
Yeah. I think that is, I mean, you can do that now. That is legal. That's totally fine.
I'm legal to make him depressed. Okay, so this is the concept that I shared with Ben last night, which is, what if I wanted to put Winnie the Pooh and Steamboat Willie as star-crossed lovers from two families that hate each other. They don't know exactly why their families hate each other, but they fall in love with the help of their friends and Winnie the Pooh's sister, who is a lesbian. So I know that might sound familiar to some people in many ways, but what if I wanted to do that? What if I wanted to make them super fucking sad?
That is legal, as far as I understand it. That should be completely fine. I think not legal advice, obviously, because I am not a lawyer. But I think that'd be fine, as long as you make sure that Steamboat Willie is represented in the original form, the 1924 version. You can't use anything from later versions of Mickey Mouse. So
he has to definitely be in black and white and gray.
Black and white. No gloves. The gloves are off the table. It has to look
gloveless.
The same. Gloveless. No glove. Yes, love.
Raw dog in the world.
For Steamboat Willie. Steamboat Willie, only raw, only hits it.
Macaroni in a pot, that's a Steamboat Willie.
That's a Steamboat Willie, yep. Yep. We're gonna get that to Meg. Don't worry, that's gonna be
that's on our list. Number 1, Steamboat Willie star-crossed lovers Winnie the Pooh. Number 2, Meg the Stallion on the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I think the WAP thing, the whistle toot is still the best we have as a replacement for WAP itself. I think is the right. No, we're talking toot toot toot. I think that's the one.
Look at our minds. See, look the possibilities of me and Ben in your writer's room. You can give us any 2 carrots and we can do something about it.
It doesn't. Yeah, we'll write anything too. I mean,
we say anything.
Say less. You need somebody to take a landmine or something and get canceled? Let's
go.
Let's do it. I'm fucking ready.
Ice Cream You Me podcast. We say anything.
We say anything. Sacrificial lambs.
We will say it. What else do you want us to say? But other than the sadness that we have about not being able to get Steamboat Willie on the show, this is the first recording of the year of our Lord and Savior 2024.
Yep. Jesus Cruises.
And it's, what is this, 2 years? My brother in Christ, Ben.
Yeah, it's 2 years. We'll pass the 3rd year in a couple months. Damn. I think, right? Into the beginning of the 3rd year.
Yeah,
because this is our 26th episode. We've already been doing this over.
We're in deep cuts, dog.
We're deep into it.
I'm telling you, we're not going to run out of things to say because we say anything.
Yeah. JD especially says anything. But
I love to say just absolutely everything.
Oh yeah. We know your scripts and the word limits. We know how this works, JD.
I had a beautiful outline that was straightforward, straight to the cut. And then I found that article that I sent you in the EP and it went crazy.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it. Do not get me wrong. I'm very much excited for this.
I'm scrolling down. It's 11 pages, half of the 11th page. And I'm this has to be because of the pictures, right? There's 2 pictures in it and I made them really small. Fuck.
I'm looking forward to these pictures. I'm looking forward to it because today we have something very special for the people. It's probably close to summer when this comes out. You know, you're getting ready for some destinations, going places, doing things, getting out in the sun, having fun in said sun, islands in the sun, Weezer type shit.
Oh, why was I thinking of the Dolly Parton song?
Is there a Dolly Parton Islands in the Sun?
Yeah, like island. Yeah, she has a duo. I think it's with like one of the Kennys.
Oh, for real? Is that a Weezer song a cover?
I don't know. Now I'm wondering.
Oh shit! You heard it here first, folks.
Shit.
We have the high and low culture too. When you see one of us is going for Dolly Parton, the other one's like Weezer.
Weezer mentioned
the most hated band on earth. They're like
the most beloved woman on the fucking planet.
Right? Yeah. Same.
Oh God! Look at us. The range we have.
That's us. That's what the people come here to hear.
Yeah, but summer, fun in the sun, shit.
Fun in the
We say anything, but we don't know how to talk.
Metaphor. That's it. That's why the podcast is the perfect art form for us. It's the perfect medium.
Exactly.
Yeah, because today we going to the beach.
Let's go to the beach. Each Thinky Manjaj. Remember that line?
Baby. I think that was good. Yeah. So, you want to just get straight into it?
Yes. Who's going first?
I can go first.
Let's go.
Let's get the disappointment out of the way.
Munchies.
Setting the stage. It's July 12th, 2008, on Long Island, New York. To escape the heat and humidity, Jenna Hewitt and a couple of friends decide to head to the beach on Montauk, near the tip of the island. They drive to a stretch of sand popular with surfers called Ditch Plains Beach. Despite the name, it's a beautiful stretch, a slight cove on the Atlantic side of the island, hidden away from view by gently rolling dunes covered in beach grass. Jenna and her friends were, quote, "We were looking for a place to sit and play ball games, like they did in the summer of '93, when we saw some people looking at something. It's a corpse, but they're not sure of what. They joke that maybe it's something from Plum Island. Put a pin in that. It's almost completely hairless, with skin that appears burned, long limbs, and strangely human-like fingers. The creature has a lower jaw full of teeth, but it almost appears to have a beak on top." Jenna snaps a photo, and we're going to look at the said photo. Are you ready? Are you ready to see dead animals from the beach? That's most.
Yeah. Okay. So now I'm like thinking. I don't think I remember what the creature looks like. So I'm excited to get flashbanged in the face.
Yeah. Take a peek. This is the classic photo. This is the one that everybody knows, everybody loves. So take a look at it. What are we seeing here?
You know, this is messed up, but it does look like an uncooked turkey. Like the texture of like uncooked fowl, like not fowl, but like bird fowl, like meat. Yeah, that's what it looks like. And the it's face down. Mm-hmm. It's got, is that something wrapped around its arm? Potentially
skin and fur.
Okay, and then it does have this beak-ish situation. But that's
probably the most distinctive thing about it, right? Is like the face that looks like it has a beak and also sharp teeth on the bottom, right?
I'm really particularly taken by the eyes section. I don't want to say really capturing me, but it's really capturing me.
I just love your eyes, Montauk Monster. I could get lost in this.
You have very kind eyes.
It does. I don't know if it even has eyes. I think it's just.
You have very kind eyelids.
Yeah, I mean, so that's the Montauk Monster. That's the famous photo that we all know and love. If you haven't seen it, the photos are going to be on the podcast, obviously, if you're watching it on YouTube or Spotify. And then also the links are all in my script and stuff and all that. So the photo will be accessible. Within a few weeks, it's a national news story. And in a couple of years, it's on Ancient Aliens. Wow.
Ancient Aliens mentioned.
Oh, yeah. I think we're going to tie in together maybe. But first, it was picked up by a local paper, the East Hampton Independent, which ran the picture of the corpse with a headline, "The Hound of Bonnackville," on July 23rd. So Bonnack is a term for people from the area. The Hound of Baskervilles is a Sherlock Holmes novel. So we got a clever little bit of local journalism wordplay.
Yay.
The story spread down Long Island for nearly a week. Long Islanders speculated that maybe it was some burnt body, that it was an escaped creature from the mysterious Plum Island Animal Disease Center, or that the girls had simply photoshopped it. And then Andrew Lawson, a writer for Gawker, received the image from Anna Holmes. who worked for Gawker's sister site, Jezebel, and believed that the image was part of some viral marketing campaign. Lawson wrote an 87-word post on July 29th, including the photo of the corpse with a headline, "Dead monster washes ashore in Montauk," subheading, "Good luck with your hell demons." This was near the heights of Gawker's power, with Nick Denton reporting that July 2008 was a record-setting month for the site, with 254 million views. Damn. And Lawson's Montauk Monster piece gained 1.3 million views within 2 days.
Damn.
Lawson himself was surprised by the virality, saying, quote, "I thought it was a dead thing that looked weird." Which, yeah, it is, right? Mm-hmm. Lauren Coleman, a cryptozoologist and acolyte of alliteration, coined the name Montauk Monster on July 29th after he saw the Gawker post. Lauren is also responsible for naming the Dover Demon, so he's been in the game for a while. We know.
Damn.
I'm surprised we've never come across Lauren before, but here's our first Lauren mention. Soon, the story was covered on the Huffington Post, NBC, and ISYM's favorite source of news, quote unquote, Fox. Theories grew wider, while some were simply trying to identify what the animal was, with some of the top theories being a dog that died in a dogfight, a turtle without its shell, or a raccoon that had lost its fur in the sea. But none of these seem to work. After all, turtle shells are part of their skeleton, so it's not a cartoon that we live in. Yeah,
I'm
gonna say. Right. The turtles don't have teeth, dogs don't have long fingers, and raccoons don't have beaks. So explain that. William Wise, the director of Stony Brook University's Living Marine Resources Institute, declared that the feet and face appeared somewhat ovine, but also pointed out that sheep don't have sharp teeth. And he also said it couldn't be a raccoon because raccoons have short, stubby limbs. So his best guess was that the creature came from, quote, "a talented someone who got very creative with latex." Because of this latex speculation, some began to believe that the corpse was a marketing stunt for an upcoming Cartoon Network show, Cryptids Are Real. Proponents of this theory cited that the image had been sent to Anna Holmes at Jezebel by Anna Nowitzki, an employee with Evolutionary Media Group. So this is Nowitzki's explanation for how she received the image. Quote, "I got this email and I opened it for my girlfriend who works at Harris Publications, which has nothing to do with anything. Anyway, my girlfriend's sister was there with her friends, and one of them took the picture. And we were like, this is the scariest shit we've ever seen. And so I'm in marketing. We were like, maybe we should send it to a few blogs and see if anyone else is freaked out as we are. We had no idea that it would turn into this. Now it's literally a beast of its own. But it has nothing to do with any kind of campaign." So
beautiful accent.
Thank you. My family's from Long Island. I just channel.
I love it.
Channeling the ants. Complicating the latex media hoax theory, there were other people who claimed to have seen the corpse. Some people saw the corpse, described it as no bigger than a cat. But people online speculated that it was just like a juvenile and that this would probably have grown to like this huge monster, right? Which I don't know where they got that basis from, but
like this is gonna be Clifford the Big Red Dog, dude.
Basically, yeah. So Michael Meehan, a waiter at the nearby Surfside Inn, described his encounter with Beast. Quote, "I saw the monster. I just came walking down the beach and everyone was looking at it. No one knew what it was. It kind of looked like a dog, but it had this crazy looking beak. I mean, I would freak out if something like that popped up next to me in the water. This woman kept calling animal control. She wanted to name it after herself. I think they came and got it. The carcass. Whatever it was." So reporters for Daily Intel attempted to contact the East Hampton Animal Control supervisor, but they received no response. The theories about the Plum Island Animal Disease Control Center continued to grow. Rumors spread that people in Montauk had seen men in hazmat suits on the beach where the body was found. One thing was for sure, the body had been removed. Another local woman claimed that it had been taken to somebody's private residence, but she declined to point reporters towards the, quote, guy. Anna Nowitzki said that her girlfriend's sister told her that animal control never came and that, quote, "they say an old guy came and carted it away. He said, I'm going to mount it on my wall." Rumors also circulated that the girls had taken the body when they found it and were holding on to it until they got a good financial offer. But this theory was called, quote, nonsense by Jenna Hewitt's father. Despite being forced into the national spotlight, there is no indication that the girls ever benefited financially from the photo of the monster. Ellen Killoran, a journalist with The Observer, attempted to follow up and find the body in 2018. She was able to track down mention of Eric Olson, a local real estate agent / surfer, who told the East Hampton Star that he had removed the carcass and left it to decompose on a friend's property, with the eventual goal of using the bones for a modern art project. But... right.
What a jackass.
For real. But Killoran was... I don't know what that art installation would have been. That whatever. But Killoran was not able to contact Eric or the friend whose property Eric supposedly used as a body farm. Killoran tracked down a blogger who wrote about the Montauk Monster for several years, but she was brushed off, and the blogger refused to answer her direct questions as to whether or not they had actually seen the body. Killoran also tracked down one of the girls who was there when the photo was taken, but was told that she and her friends had no interest in talking about the monster anymore. Killoran then made contact with Nick Layton, who interviewed the girls for a now-defunct local cable station, Plum TV. Nick said that the girls told him that the body was, quote, sealed in some kind of box, but did not elaborate. The Plum TV interview was mostly tongue-in-cheek and winked to the theory that the body was an escaped mutant from the Plum Island Animal Disease Center. Nick told Killoran that he was not a believer in the Plum Island conspiracy because he'd done a story on Plum Island, and after seeing the security at the facility, he doubted an animal that big would have been able to just walk out. Here's our sidebar on Plum Island, which is sometimes referred to as the Area 51 of the East Coast. Here's a description from an unnamed blogger at nycghost.com. Quote, a place that immersed in all manner of highly icky conspiracy theories, Plum Island is a treasure trove of governmental cover-ups. Throughout the years, Plum Island has seen mad scientists, Nazis, and the occasional supervillain trounce around its quarters. It is a place with snipers and a couple of spooky facilities that were employed for the development of actual doomsday weapons. Citation fucking needed, buddy.
Yeah, dude.
For real, come on.
I'm sorry.
So yeah, you can't just brush by supervillains. So let's get into the actual research on Plum Island, right? The Plum Island Animal Disease Center is a research facility located in the Long Island Sound, which is the opposite side of the island from where the Montauk Monster was found. The facility is dedicated to research on foreign animal diseases in livestock. It is a national laboratory currently run by the Department of Homeland Security's Directorate for Science and Technology and the USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture. The island was sold to the U.S. War Department in phases from 1897 to 1901. I know this is very exciting. The island was partially developed into Fort Terry, which was used to support submarines in the First and Second World Wars, and also served as an Army training camp during World War II. After the war, Fort Terry was handed over to the U.S. Army Chemical Corps in 1952. The Army Corps began the process of transitioning the island from a fort to a research facility, but the facility was deactivated before it began operation. The island and its facilities were then transferred to the USDA. The lab was opened in 1954 to study foot and mouth disease. Congress was urged to fund foot and mouth disease research after a series of outbreaks in Mexico in 1946 and Canada in 1952. Since then, Plum Island has been the only facility in the country authorized to work with foot and mouth disease samples, and it also specializes in the research of African swine fever. So there was a period during the 1960s when the lab did some studies on potential biological weapons use against livestock, which is pretty evil, but that program ended in 1969 when Nixon ended the U.S. offensive bioweapons program. So rare shout out to Nixon for ending a pretty creepy program.
Nixon.
Dicky Nicky. All right. In 1971, the New York Times, the paper of record, described the facility as, quote, Devil's Island for the deadliest animal diseases known to man, which has a very New York Post energy to it. The article also got into descriptions of the island security, which features 24-hour patrols, airlocks and clean rooms, holding tanks for wastewater for mandatory showers to enter or leave the facility. So there have been rumors about Plum Island since its inception, right? And in particular, a conspiracy theory that it created and released Lyme disease, which was first discovered as human infections in 1975. So the key thing here is that just because it was discovered by humans doesn't mean that it didn't exist before, and it did exist before, quote, ticks collected in 1945 from the eastern end of Long Island and mice collected in 1894 on Cape Cod were found to be infected with the bacterium responsible for Lyme disease. Other studies have found the bacterium has been in North America for at least 60,000 years, based on genomic analysis of B. burgdorferi. I don't know how to say bacteria names. I'm sorry. And a 15 million-year-old tick fossil found in a chunk of amber in the Dominican Republic also showed evidence of being infected with Borrelia bacteria. This didn't stop the House of Representatives from voting to investigate if the Pentagon developed ticks as biological weapons in 2019. That's a Republican effort.
You ever made an insect before?
Yeah, have you made weaponized ticks? Or are you behind it? So there's a very popular book that is kind of big on the conspiracy side of things. It's about the Lyme disease being created in a lab. It's a very dumb book. It's not. Obviously, it's been disproven. The administration of Plum Island changed hands from the USDA to the Department of Homeland Security in 2003 with the passing of the Homeland Security Act of 2002. So I read through the very exciting United States Government Accountability Office report, Combating Bioterrorism, Actions Needed to Improve Security at Plum Island Animal Disease Center, and the title is pretty self-explanatory. I probably could have stopped there. The security concerns that prompted the switch were much more about the risk that an adversary might try to steal pathogens than escaping mutant biologically created creatures. So John Derrico, a spokesperson for the DHS Science and Technology Directorate, told How Stuff Works in 2019, quote, "We actually don't do any classified work at all. Our scientists publish reports on everything that we do. So as far as we know, Plum Island is not working on creating new monsters. They are just dedicated to preventing disease outbreaks in the United States livestock industry." It also seems like Plum Island was supposed to shut down in 2023, and the lab's work was going to be moved to Kansas, but that has now seen some delays, and the decommissioning of the lab is now expected to begin in December of 2024 and finish in 2028. Probably won't see any more Montauk monsters once they're gone, which
too bad.
Pretty suspicious. So the fate of Plum Island is a little outside of the scope of this episode, but it's worth mentioning that there is a group called the Preserve Plum Island Coalition, which wants to prevent development of the island after the government leaves. Since the island is basically just the lab, much of it functions as a wildlife refuge for native species. They have a website. I would recommend, go sign the petition, keep a rare wildlife refuge in the New York area going. And, don't let it be developed into condominiums or whatever the fuck. But if it's not an escaped mutant, what is it, right? What is this Montauk Monster? I think that the most likely explanation, I think the most accepted one as well, is that it is a raccoon.
Ooh.
But before you call me unbiased, let me voice the opposition. So here's a bit of debunking from an unnamed blogger at nycghost.com. Yeah, and I'm Batman. That's what the government went and told everybody. That's what they up there, that nasty whatever, is just a simple, run-of-the-mill raccoon. I've seen a raccoon. I've battled with raccoons out in my driveway. The sly bastards with their crafty hands making off with my trash. If a raccoon like that ever came out to me, I'd hand the furry monster my house keys, the deed to my car, and my Amazon Prime password. Yeah, right. A raccoon. So here's the thing.
Bro hates raccoons. What the
Bro's
fuck?
not about raccoons. This guy doesn't beef with raccoons.
Bro is fighting raccoons and his demons, dog.
For real, yeah. But there's a key difference between the raccoons that the unnamed writer, I understand why he's unnamed, is busy wrestling over food scraps with, and the Montauk Monster.
Okay.
There's a reason that a raccoon-like, the grammar is horrendous in these blogs. I just need to point out. A raccoon like that will never come up to the author. Do you want to hazard a guess?
I can't. I don't.
It's dead. It's a dead raccoon. It's been dead for a while.
You know what?
Yeah.
I was like, this is turtle without a shell. I believe that turtles cannot survive without their shell. But what if the government did something? We were on our way to the fucking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
It's close to NYC, like we could have had
New York with the rats, turtles from Plum Island.
We have Pizza Rat, we have Montauk Monster. It seems like everything was coming together, right?
We almost had the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We almost had the solution to getting rid of cops, which is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
But it would have been like heroes without a shell.
Yeah.
In the case of the Montauk Monster.
We'd have to give them shells, though.
They need shells. You can't have a turtle without a shell. It's just gross.
You just be like, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
The raccoon theory, maybe it's kind of pitched by NYC Ghosts as the agenda of the scientific elite of the government. But as early as July 2008, Doug Johnston, the director of the natural resources for the town of East Hampton, said that the corpse was a raccoon. Noel Arikian was an eyewitness to the monster and told The Star, quote, "In the photos, there appears to be a beak. It was just a tricky angle. It's a dead raccoon. That's what it is. It's undoubtedly a raccoon. The same teeth, paws, and the right size. No other animal has a body like that. veteran cryptozoologist Lauren Coleman now agrees that is a raccoon. In a 2013 article, he says that he's always known that it was a raccoon, saying, quote, "It was the day after I coined the name that I also suggested the species behind the body was a raccoon." And, quote, "I noted in my posting that the Montauk Monster looked like a raccoon to me." So he links to the original posting in both instances, which is the same post. And here's what it actually says. Quote, "Something strange indeed did wash ashore at Montauk Island, New York. Is the Montauk Monster nothing more than a raccoon with an upper jaw, as proclaimed by local officials?" Which reads to me a little bit more like, what aren't they telling us? We want answers. Then, hey guys, I think this is just a dead raccoon. Are you with me on that?
Yeah.
The energy is a little, yeah.
He's got a pipe in his mouth and he's like, so.
That's how I picture him. He's just a dude from Maine, so I don't really know how to do a Maine accent. But he's Orson Welles, basically. But here's the evidence as broken down by paleontologist and blogger Darren Naish, who really has the dead animals washing up on the shore beat locked down.
Yeah.
Tetrapod Zoology, that's his blog. I would recommend it if you want to read about dead animals washing up on the beach, or biology, or anatomy. It's all fun. Naish begins by saying that the two most mysterious aspects of the body, that the creature is largely hairless and that the upper jaw appears to be a beak, are, quote, taphonomic artifacts. So, taphonomy is the study of how organisms decay and or are eventually fossilized. Mm-hmm. This is where things get a little gross. So go ahead and skip 30 seconds a minute if you don't want to hear descriptions of decaying bodies. JD doesn't have that option, of course. Here's a quote from Naish. Quote, "One of the first things that happens to bodies that roll around in the water is that their fur comes off, and they look grotesque, hairless, and bloated. The facial tissues then decompose, leaving a defleshed snout and eventually a totally defleshed skull. At the same time, the skin on the hands and feet is lost, yet the body remains intact. The Montauk Monster therefore owes its bizarre appearance to partial decomposition. The tendency for soft tissues of the snout to be lost early on in decomposition immediately indicates that the beak is just a defleshed snout region. We're actually seeing the naked premaxillary bones. Given the sharp lower teeth, Naish identifies it as carnivoran. The upper teeth are missing, and he points out that you can actually see the empty sockets where the teeth should have been, right, where the sockets are visible. As to whether it's a dog, Naish points out that the skull shape is convex with less of a pronounced brow ridge than you would expect from a dog. But the biggest giveaway are the front paws, which have long fingers without interdigital webbing. These paws are what made people suspect that it was a lab-made human hybrid, but the other more obvious option is that it is a raccoon. As to claims that the Montauk Monster has much too long limbs, Naish just flat out disagrees with that, saying, like a lot of mammals we ordinarily assume to be relatively short-legged, raccoons are actually surprisingly leggy. As a bonus, Naish included some rarely seen alternate angles of the creature, which revealed more gray, classically raccoonish hair, and makes clear that the beak is just exposed bone. So, gonna pop these open for you. Get ready to look at another beautiful
alternate angle
rotting corpse.
Let's go.
So, as you can see the nostrils, right? The nasal cavity there. So it looks a lot less like a beak. You can see the sockets where the teeth should go in that quote-unquote beak in the upper jaw, the premaxillary bone. The eyes are less charming on this side, I would say. It's a little bit more kind of
not as kind
cloudy.
As the other side.
No, and there's like a lot more hair on it as well. So yeah, I think we can kind of say, okay, yeah, from the side, looks a lot more like a dead raccoon.
Yeah.
But he, to top it all off, he also includes an image comparing the skull of the raccoon, illustrating it with hair, and with the drawing, it's a raccoon. The Montauk Monster, I think, is really only unique in the viral spread of the story. Finding weird corpses at the edge of a body of water has been a part of the human experience as long as we've lived near water, which, as JD will get into, could be longer than we ever believed possible. Sensationalized news stories about these discoveries go back at least to the 1800s. In the case of the Montauk Monster, the creature had been identified before the story even went viral, but the story has still become one of the defining cases. Since 2008, almost all stories about mysterious bodies washing up on the shore have made mention of the Montauk Monster. I think that these stories, their popularity, and the press's general lack of interest in the truth illustrate the pull toward sensation rather than information that is present in our media ecosystem. The mystery and drama of the stories we create are often more appealing than the bloated, waterlogged corpses of reality. So
beautiful.
Just a dead raccoon.
So just dead raccoon. Yeah, I was thinking like dead, like messed up, right? Because if I was like, okay, let's lean into like the Plum Island Animal Disease Center thing, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Like maybe this was like one of those animals that got a little bit fucked up, that got a little bit of a bad disease in them, and then like in the process of getting rid of like the bodies in one way or another, it kind of like slipped out somewhere and ended up here. Like instead of like it's an escaped creature, my brain was like, oh, maybe they were dumping like bodies or throwing something away, and then like something like weird happened, and that's really where my mind went. Instead of like escaped rabid dog, is this the chupacabra by the beach? Yeah. So it's very interesting. I like that.
Yeah, in the immediate wake of it, there was a lot of people posting like debunking articles, being like, obviously it's a pit bull that got killed, or like Fox News had a story that was like, obviously it's a raccoon that was burnt as a Viking funeral, and we talked to the man who did it, and it's that's all right. I mean, at least they got the raccoon part right.
Yeah.
I don't think that the burns are consistent with like fire. I think that those burns look more like just sun damage, and also just the way that blood kind of pools in a dead body when it but get into the forensic side of it, it doesn't really fucking matter because it's just a raccoon. The Plum Island thing I think is definitely part of the why the story spread, and especially for like local people, that was like an added layer of conspiracy and kind of something to hang on to in a little bit more narrative sense. Or even Jenna was like, oh, it's probably like a Plum Island thing, which, it's fine. It's like the mysterious lab that's kind of near you guys. I understand it. Like,
yeah, I think it's really cool. And I think the story running away from its sort of like debunking is always very interesting. Of like, I have something about something like that in my section, but it's like, sometimes the debunking or like the real answer to something gets drowned out by a lot more of like the conspiracy or like the talk about like, well, what if it's this? Because like, that's very interesting.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I do feel for like Jenna Hewitt and her friends too, because they did get like shoved into the national spotlight and a lot more scrutiny than I think they knew they were signing up for when they like shared this image. Right.
Yeah.
Like, when they did like the 2018 follow-up, they were all like living in like different states, and like I'm sure it just kind of like fucked their life up to just feel like, God, like, yes, we saw like a dead raccoon, and everybody's like, did you fake it? Are you doing it for money? Is it actually a government cover-up? Like, what's going on? And it's just like, like the Gawker guy said, it's just like a dead thing that looks weird, really. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and then I put like no interest in being famous is interesting, because you don't really, I guess when you take pictures of those things and just put it out there, sometimes you're kind of just like, does anyone know what this is? And then now you're like the guy who fucking like took the picture of this fucking thing, right? Yeah,
and it seems like Jenna did give like the photo to like the local news, like their hometown paper, but that's again like a small hometown paper. That's not what you don't expect it to become like an international story that's covered on like the networks and getting like millions of views.
Yeah, you're hoping that like someone's like, oh, it's actually this thing, but now it's like, I've got my
right. And like in terms of like how big the story should be, it probably should be like, oh, record-breaking cucumber grown. Like it's the same level of local.
Like obviously we have reason to be like government shady.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I never want to be put in the position of defending the fucking Homeland Security. Yeah, obviously, that's never where I want to be. But I feel like in this case, there's no evidence that there were supervillains.
Yeah, supervillains really was like, was this like a Marvel situation of like it only attacked New York and I'm here in like the Bay Area, like chilling?
The Empire State of Mind is just it's on another level.
Yeah.
But yeah, NYC Ghost. I mean, obviously, they're just trying to sell fucking ghost tours.
That's the raccoon.
That's their thing.
Person, right?
That's the raccoon person. Yeah.
Really, just look inside yourself and why you're really projecting on these little raccoon creatures.
What is it the raccoon hate about? And
like, I understand they can get into your garbage and mess around, but just pick up
take your
garbage.
pizza crusts.
Yeah, just
eat the pizza crust before you throw it out.
Yeah,
they don't.
exactly.
I know you think that it gets more flavor if it sits in there, but
stop fighting a fucking raccoon,
yeah,
please.
You weird little fucking gremlin.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Projecting my. Oh God, but yeah, very good. Listen. We write separately. We talk very vaguely about the stuff that we cover, and then we run into each other. Our brains.
Yeah.
This is why college projects.
This is our brain trust.
Oh my God, we share a single brain cell, and the brain cell
that we share.
Yeah, it's very big and very beautiful. But yeah, let's take a dive. I'm about to dive in. Okay, I asked you about this. Okay, let me do my accent. Arnar Cleo. I've gotten wet. My tail is wait, no, it's going. I can do the R&R Cleo unprepared. The rest I can't. But yeah, now that we
do you have like a term that you can use to like nail the accent? Like
nar. Okay. Yeah. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, Ben.
Yeah.
What do you know about mermaids?
So they're a mystical creature, half fish, half human. I guess if we're being gender essentialist, mermaid would be a merlady.
Like a lady. Yeah, that's basically what a mermaid is. Because today we're not just doing bad impressions from the show H2O, where water touches you, a person and you can turn into a mermaid if you have the genetics and the family history. We're talking about cold, hard, wet proof, that nasty shit. I said it again in here, that fucking macaroni in a pot, that's a Steamboat Willie. I just really love that line so much. But yeah, today we're talking about mermaids, the body found. I was a mere 17-year-old when this aired. 17, 18, I think. I watched it with my parents. My mom was a big fan of the supernatural and all things weird and wondrous. I watched it and came to thinking it's very much fake, even at that age. I sort of, when I think I remembered watching it and I wasn't scared of it, but I was just really got by like the CGI uncanny valley thing when it came to the mermaids.
The mermaid.
Yeah. And I think my mom didn't believe in it either, but the eerie factor of it was like really what got her to like want to watch it. So today I'll give you a rundown of the movie, the reactions to it, and then I'll go the typical JD route of reviewing this as someone who loves a good mockumentary, but absolutely fucking struggled with this, right? So Mermaids, the Body Found is a documentary.
Heavier quotes.
That tells the story of a team of NOAA scientists, oceanic. Why didn't I write down what that means?
National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration.
Yeah, so yeah, that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Right. Who NOAA scientists who accidentally uncovered a new species during their quest to find out more about whale beachings all over the world and what's causing them. The documentary aired in 2012 on the Animal Planet and drew in 1.9 million viewers, and its follow-up Mermaids, The New Evidence, the next year drew in 3.6 million viewers. The story follows them from the start, checking out beached whales and wondering why it's happening and what's going on, examining the whales, checking out some sounds, down to where things go wrong because the government is getting way too antsy about something that these NOAA scientists are getting a little too close to, right? So the story starts with Dr. Paul Robertson and Dr. Rebecca Davis giving context to how this all started and all of the things that led them to basically finding out that mermaids are very much real, right? It's an interesting setup and something that we're familiar to when it comes to creepypastas and weird internet scares, something sort of mundane, NOAA scientists out on a job, discovering something incredibly bizarre, and then their lives are turned upside down by the government and their findings. This sort of story is familiar to us and something we might have read about on Reddit during that time and during the era of many original creepypastas coming out, right? But before we delve deeper into the documentary, let's take a look. Let's take a second to talk about mermaids. We know them, we love them, but let's refresh about them for a second. This section is titled "Look at this shit, isn't it neat?" I was remixing like the Little Mermaid song like all night on my brain. But yeah, as Ben said, mermaids are described as half fish, half human creatures that are found in stories, myth, folklore, and art, and so many other places that you can stick a story in. For most of us, a mermaid is half human on top, half fish on the bottom, and all beautiful woman, as the word breaks up as mare, or of the sea lake from Old English, and maiden as a girl, woman. The lads, once again, if we're getting down to gender essentialism, tend to get the merman thing, obviously.
Do we use merfolks?
We can do merfolk as like the thing,
the
right? Jenny Nuge. But yeah, some of our iconic mermaids are Ariel from The Little Mermaid, the Fiji mermaid of P.T. Barnum stylings. Remember that one in your brain. For the Filipinos, we have like the Jezebel and Marina, and then there's the story in Filipino mythology of Bulan, who is like kind of like a representation of the moon, who came down from the sky to swim with mermaids, who protected him from nefarious sea baddies. In Philippine mythology, the Sirena is a mermaid who is particularly devious and lures you to certain death, which is very girl boss gaslight and gatekeep the sea. Bring that back, ladies. But yeah. Back to the documentary, Mermaids, the Body Found, which I bought for $2.99 on YouTube. Ben, write that down in expenses. Takes all that mer mythology and takes it for a ride around town and dumps it in the nearest kiddie pool. Sounds bad? Not really, for the most part. The movie takes a bunch of existing evolutionary theories about animals, humans, and slam dunks it into the mud. So that part's cool-ish. A little interesting, but also not at the same time, right? There's many things that interest me about this movie, but one thing that stands out about this movie the most is that it aired on the Animal Planet, right? So in 2012, which is the same time as Finding Bigfoot started airing on Animal Planet. This was probably the peak decade, so 2000 to 2010, 15 decade and a bit of paranormal shows. I was on the paranormal show wiki page, and it's very much like from the 2000s to now is when it was like popping.
When it was popping,
right?
That was their heel turn.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So it was Animal Planet's sort of first dive into fiction with an entertainment focus, and I can hazard the guess that it was probably a result from the decline of Animal Planet in 2008, in my opinion, when it comes to ratings, right? And I say official when it comes to Mermaids, the Body Found, because Riley Black, author of one of the articles I will use later here, points out that in 2004, Channel 4, across the pond, and Animal Planet released The Last Dragon, or as Cars Wiki localized to us, Americans, Dragons, a fantasy made real. This is also helpful to know that The Last Dragon was also made by Charlie Foley, who also made Mermaids, and is responsible for my fear of Homo floresiensis, who I loved in a way that felt like they were kin to me as someone who is deeply 4'11". When he made The Cannibal in the Jungle in 2015, also with Animal Planet. And the big difference between these two is like dragons, you're kind of just like, oh, if someone supposes that they're real, you're kind of just like, but mermaids. We don't go to the sea a lot, right? Right?
What's down there?
Because dragons, the mockumentary, documentary, whatever, existed, but Mermaids, the Body Found is where it fucking popped off for Animal Planet and the concept of fake documentaries like this, right?
Right.
Mermaids, the Body Found basically claims that mermaids are very much real in this fictional setting, which is completely fine if you're wholly aware of the movie being fake. We'll talk about this later on, but for now, we'll go through some of the things that make this movie actually pretty interesting for what it is. So, we've established on the podcast some of the strategies that filmmakers, video game creators, storytellers, and writers utilize in order to create a scary feeling to something. Mermaids, The Body Found, and its sequel does not shy away from these strategies and utilizes them to the best of their ability. I'm going to show you a clip to give you a feel of the general gist of the movie's tactics. So we're going to watch this video, and then I'm going to ask you to sort of pay attention based on like what we've discussed on the show. Like, from watching this, what do you think are some of the things that they're doing in order to give it a scary feeling? So, JD, hit share.
You filmed this on your laptop?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. approaching the body, poking it with a stick. Whoa. We got a jump scare.
There you go. And I filmed this on my laptop because it won't even let me do a screen share. I mean, a screenshot thing, because Chrome has like that thing that's like stops you from thing. It's like saving up battery. I mean, saving CPU power. And I hate turning it on and then my browser saying, hey, you're using like 4 gigabytes a minute.
It's a lot of work, so we'll just do like the boomer version of sharing a video.
Yeah, so we're doing it analog horror style with JD.
Yeah,
but right, okay. So now that Ben's seen the video, for those who are driving or not watching us anywhere, you're just listening to our dulcet tones. We have a teenage boy filming another teenage boy on a camera phone. This is supposed to be 2004, 2008ish, and the boy is running up to something on the beach. And you've watched the video and you're probably like, JD, did you try to replicate that feeling? But Ben, what do you think they did in this video to make it a little scary?
It's very much shot in kind of like the found footage realm. It's the very shaky camera, a lot of quick zooms, kind of changing around. You don't see the full scene. You're very much like point to point, like you zoom in on like the teenage boy, and then they zoom in on the teenage boy going closer to the thing, and then it's always kind of like close shots, so you don't see what's really going on, the whole lay of the land, and then you obviously have the jump scare at the end, which is kind of just like a classic. The thing gets up and it like attacks the boy. Side note. So one of the articles I was reading advised to not poke dead things with sticks because they might explode. Yeah. Because they're full of gas.
Yeah, like whales, creatures that wash up.
Raccoons.
Yeah.
Seals.
Don't
do it. So don't.
It's stinky.
PSA. Very stinky. Yeah. Very stinky. You'll get covered in guts.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ben, correct. Right, so we have like the whole like shaky cam VHS effect that's lost because I filmed it on my I filmed my iPad, just so you know. I filmed my laptop, filmed it on my iPad. That's how fucking bad it was. But yeah, we have like the whole like glitching effect-ish. We have a really dark contrast, right? It's filmed from a flip phone, camera phone kind of thing. So it's like, because it was filmed on a flip phone back then and this aired in 2012.
Surreal.
Yeah, right? Yeah. We've got the bad sounds. We've got a lot of pulling away when something happens, right? And then jump scare, visual, and then sound, right? So we see a little bit of the creature, like, blah. Right, the kid. So yeah, these strategies are familiar to us from episode 3's Fresno Nightcrawler, episode 5's the Nonsense Man, that terrible video that Ben showed me, our funky found footage episodes, episode 13's Cooper Family Photo, episode 15's Serbian Dancing Lady, and There Are People in This House, episode 17's AI Lobe, episode 20's Slender Man, episode 22's Caretaker in Lost Media, episode 24's Analog Horror, and episode 25's SM64. So we've covered these kinds of tactics quite a bit on the show. You should listen to all of those episodes. But yeah, unfortunately, Mermaids does suffer from showing the creature a little too much, violating the sort of don't show your monster too much concept that a lot of successful horror movies tend to do, unless they have a really genuinely kind of well agreed upon scary creature where even
the
if
design has to really be on point.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And then but who's to say that there was even intent to make it scary? I said it, right? Obviously, I don't think Animal Planet was out to make jump scare horror films, but there's definitely elements of that in the movie, purposefully so, just to make it a little bit more entertaining than outright showing you some creature without any mystery, right? Another aspect of this movie that particularly interests me is the use of facts and actual events in order to create a body of fiction, right? They use real evidence a couple of times, but reframe it like some out of context text from your friend that sent you that's very real, but you just randomly mention all the time. So like, what if your friend said sometimes Simba from The Lion King is hot, and they actually said sometimes people think that Simba from The Lion King is hot. See, you're taking that evidence and you're just kind of going like, what? Right? So let's go over some of the theories, evidence, and all the other shit they used in order to create an interesting piece of fiction. So I picked some of my favorites and the ones that I could find like the most direct connections with, or they said something very vaguely to it, but won't like specify it, right? So we have the use of the Moken people. The Moken people are known for being sea nomads, living and surviving by way of the sea. Mermaids basically refer to their ability to see very well underwater compared to most people as a way to say, hey, look, how come these people can do it? They have to be descendants of mermaids, actually, right? However, if we look at the reality of that outside being mermaid evidence, this ability is actually key to managing well underwater during gathering, navigating while swimming, because everything is blurry and objects in the distance do not actually look closer than they are when you're underwater, right? I am not able to open my eyes underwater. I'm very afraid. I can't even swim, so I can't do it.
Not for you, not your skill.
Yeah, that's not me. I'm not descendant of the mermaids. I'm descendant of the ones who stayed on land, baby.
Homo florensis.
Yeah, Homo floresiensis.
Yeah, 4'11".
4'11".
Yeah.
That's where I'm at, right? Moken children in a experiment.
Yeah.
Please stop experimenting on children in this way, right? Moken children were found to have better underwater vision when tested against European children counterparts, as they had the ability to constrict their pupils for better vision underwater. The people who conducted the experiment supposed that maybe the Moken children's eyes had adapted more than usual in order to accommodate their lifestyle, along with other ideas, but ultimately found that their eyes were they're just like the European children's eyes. But how can they do this? The distinct difference was in their pupils. The Moken children were able to constrict their pupils, allowing them to see better underwater because it allows more light to come in, right? So if we think of our cats as cat people, right? The pupils dilate for accounting for a whole lot of things, right? And they supposed, the people who did the experiment supposed that this was an evolutionary thing, paving way for better survival during the Moken people's water-based escapades, or the parasympathetic nervous system's way of just helping them along, easing their bodies to be better underwater. So parasympathetic nervous system basically like keeps your body chill and like relaxed as much as possible. So it's basically like their pupils are getting relaxed underwater, so it's not too stressed, right? So basically no mermaids there. They're just like well adapted to their daily life and what they have to do. Another thing they use that if you don't really pay attention to, other than like, okay, cool, why did you mention large spleens? Like they were like, oh, when we found the body, we found a large spleen, which if you're not paying attention, you're just like, what does that mean? But if you are paying attention like me, because you had to take notes, the large spleen mentioned is evidence of more mermaid proof, because this is reportedly found in sea nomad groups like the Sama of the Philippines. Their spleens are larger, making way for more oxygenated red blood cells, allowing for longer diving time due to a longer ability to hold their breath underwater. So they're implying the large spleen that we found is because this is from a mermaid, because underwater, right?
Are they implying that mermaids are need to breathe air? Yeah,
they do. They still come up for air in the movie, right? And the spleen thing was first observed or seen in the Ama people in Japan, who are pearl divers, right? So they're like, big spleen, big swim, right? Another is the Cave of Swimmers. In Mermaids, they very, very vaguely refer to a bunch of cave paintings that were apparently the oldest mythic images made by man in Egypt. Holy shit, right? So now, obviously, I looked up that exact phrase. And I'm going to show it to you now. Once again, taken from my iPad, right? So they were like, this is the oldest mythic image made by man in Egypt in a cave. So they bar for bar said, oldest mythic image made by man found in a cave in Egypt. When I looked it up, this is what came up, because this is what's from Mermaids, the Body Found movie. Yeah. Right. So you can see we got, is this a dolphin?
Right. Yeah. This is swordfish, maybe?
Swordfish, yeah. And then you've got, pretty sure the mermaids are here. This is the mermaids under the swordfish. They're like little stick
figures, but with like one leg and a big foot.
Yeah. And then they've got weapons. They've got spears, right? And they're being described as like fighting against humans for like resources.
So JD, back to your image taking methodology here. Did you take this photo by taking it? Because I see the reflection of, is that your laptop? So did you take the photo of your iPad with your laptop?
I told you I can't screenshot.
Okay.
I told you I can't screenshot.
That's all right.
I told you I can't screenshot.
I see the camera app on the laptop.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
I can't screenshot, you bastard. Okay. And now here's the real thing. Hold on.
Okay.
That's how it's gonna be for the rest of them. I'm telling you right now.
All right. I just needed to establish the methodology there for how you're coming at things.
But yeah, this is basically from my investigation. Okay. I am pretty sure this is what they're referring to. This bad boy is
okay. So is the previous one like a fabrication?
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure, because when you look up like oldest mythic images made by man in Egypt cave, that's literally what they say. They don't provide any dates, locations, anything.
Yeah.
This is the next closest image I can find. This is called the Cave of Swimmers, and it's located in the southwest of Egypt in a cave in the, I'm going to say this very bad, Gilf Kabir Mountains, or Jilf Kabir Mountains. You might say, well, JD, all cave paintings look the same. How could you say that this is exactly what they're talking about? Well, like I said, if you bar for bar look up oldest mythic images in Egypt cave mermaid, you get this and the images from I can't stop laughing.
From Mermaids.
Yeah, from Mermaids, the body found, right? Obviously, the Google images are going to be different from 2012 to now. But when you look this up now, this is what comes up. To the untrained eye, this is basically the same shit. They keep it vague enough. They don't name it. They don't date it and let you locate it. What do you care, right? In the film, the initial image is basically touted as evidence that, like,
you're led to believe that that's the actual image.
Yeah, they're like, humans definitely fought mermaids for resources. Right? Yeah. Nice. Another population destroyed by human hubris and our inability to share and care with other peoples. Yeah. So, now, if you asked me what the best piece of real evidence they used in this is, Ben, do you know what the bloop is?
Oh, that was like the mysterious noise that they like recorded in the ocean, right? And it was just... You're going to play it, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If you ask me, that this exposes that I am a bloop lover. If you're not one and don't know what the bloop is, like Ben said, it's a sound recorded by Noah in the coast of Chile in 1997. So I was 3 years old. That sounded exactly like how it's named. It was loud as fuck and lasted for a minute. And you know what else is loud as fuck and lasted for a minute? What if I just pulled out an air horn? That would be so fucked up.
Vuvuzela.
Okay, vuvuzela, right? But yeah, for those without the knowledge of what the bloop, this is the bloop, okay? Right? That's the bloop, right? It just goes on and on like that for an entire minute. At the time, it's suspected that was basically, before that, it was thought to be a sort of loud marine mammal of some sort. Right. But after, like, around, like, 2012, maybe? 2012, 2014, 2015, it was suspected that it was basically just ice plates rubbing against each other and shifting. However, mermaids actually argued that if you listen deeper and slowed that shit down and made it bouncy, you can actually hear a bunch of mermaids fucking dying due to the Navy just blasting out sonic booms. Because if it absolutely killed beach whales, dolphins, seals, and all that shit, why wouldn't it also blast the shit out of a bunch of mermaids? So we're gonna now listen to it in the context of the show.
So are you hearing the mermaids dying, or are you hearing the sonic boom that's killing the mermaids?
You're hearing a bunch of mermaids dying.
Okay.
So now you're gonna listen to... Now you're going to listen to a bunch of mermaids dying. And look at this fucking character. Look at this absolute fucking character. This is a scientist on the show. Here it is.
Down into the range of human hearing. Here it is at 1/3 of its original speed. individuals, literally thousands of different signifiers, at least half dozen individual voice prints.
Now,
okay.
What are you?
Thousands, literally half a dozen.
Thousands.
Okay. There's a lot of.
There's a range of. It could be 1,000, or it could be 12.
Couple. Could be 12.
Could be 12.
Yeah.
You don't know. Like, keep it vague enough that you're just like, you know what? There could be thousands, or there could be 12, because there are 12 within 1,000, right? So, that's the sort of evidence that they've got on here, right? And like I mentioned in the Cave of Swimmers section, something I noticed is that when they mentioned some sort of real life evidence to link to something, it was vague enough that you sort of acknowledged that it sounds fine and real enough, and maybe you'd Google it later, but you then forget, because they wouldn't give you an exact name. Just like in the cave paintings from Egypt, where, right? From your knowledge, vague knowledge of like cave paintings, Egypt, and old, you assumed it was fine and dandy, because like, oh yeah, cave paintings, Egypt's old. That makes sense, right? And they kept it just vague enough that it was somehow still smart sounding, regardless of whether or not you cared enough about story immersion or just seeing those CGI mermaids, right? But now that you've seen some of the real evidence that they've used for this piece of fiction, what are some of the thoughts running through your mind right now when it comes to like any of the stuff that I've given you and how they're used in the show?
So I'm thinking kind of in terms of the elements of like unfiction, right? Like, it is like presented. Is there like a disclaimer, like, hey, this is bullshit, or is it?
We'll talk about this later.
Okay. I also feel like there's like definitely some similarities where you were describing kind of like that methodology where like you'll see like a news story that's like, people are outraged by the new Captain Marvel, and then it's like quoting like a tweet as like evidence. So there's definitely a lot of that kind of like cherry picking anecdote shit. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, very intentional kind of misleading stuff. The guy talking about, what do you say, signifiers, really thousands of signifiers, and like a lot of kind of jargony stuff that sounds like impressive, but is kind of meaningless if you don't have the explanation of what you're actually trying to say. So
vague language sounds smart. You're just like, yeah, sounds good. But the science is saying it, so that makes sense. Right? So now we're turning to fact from fiction, right? So Riley Black, like I mentioned above, is one of my favorite journalists, wrote the following on mermaids in their debunking article. Speculative biology can be a lot of fun to wonder how different forms of life might have evolved, and the right context and presentation, mermaids could have been a unique way to highlight evolutionary and biological ideas. But rather than being a hook for communicating actual science, Mermaids was a sensationalistic end in itself, right? Which I agree on, because I love watching speculative biology videos about cryptid creatures, mythical creatures, beings from books, right? I found a channel that's like how like werewolves would like develop kind of thing, and like how their bone structures would be like based on blah, 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 right? So it's cool to watch. Like,
it's fun.
It's fun. Yeah, but it's a little wonky here. But so now that we've developed the concept of fiction from fact, let's flip it, reverse it, and talk about the beloved nemesis of mine as of watching the show, the aquatic ape theory.
Okay.
Ben, you know the aquatic ape theory, yes?
Yeah. So it's kind of loathed by anthropologists. I studied anthropology in my undergrad. I'm not like an actual anthropologist, but like basically the aquatic ape theory kind of arose pre us having as much fossil evidence of early hominids as we do now, to kind of explain certain aspects of human biology that we don't see in other great apes, like our lack of hair. The basic idea is that there was a period where early hominids went into the sea as like a divergent evolution thing, and that was like where we split from the rest of the great apes. Yeah.
So basically some of us went to the water, some of us kept on land. We have webbings between our fingers because we use that to swim in the ocean, right? So for those at home who have gripped Ben's explanation but want a little bit more, it's the theory or supposition that we as humans have a lot in common with aquatic life, more than most mammals. This leads to the idea that our ancestors may have spent a lot of time near water, because what else do we need? Nakedness, thick subcutaneous fat layer, stretched hind limbs, voluntary respiration, and dilute urine. 4. What do we need them? We've got them. Who needs them? I don't know. Right? So now, as Ben said, as anthropology bitches, and Ben and I are, I did linguistic, cultural, and biological anthropology. And then I was like, goodbye. Run!
No.
Right? We know this is kind of wee-woo. But Mermaids actually makes it fun-ish. Like, I see where it's like, there's a little hesitation of me to like, oh, Mermaids makes it fun. Because I'm still like, we'll talk about later when it comes to like the disclaimer of where it shows up and everything. But let's now go to the clip from Dr. Robertson from the movie to explain aquatic ape theory in the context of Mermaids, the movie. So,
the aquatic ape theory is a theory about us, really, about where we come from. And I know it's always been controversial, but now I think there's really something to it. Why are we so different from other terrestrial animals? According to the theory, it's because there was a time when early humans spent much of their lives in the sea. And the traits that make us so different from other land animals are a legacy from this period. We can control our breathing like marine mammals and hold our breath longer than any other land animal. The human record for breath holding is nearly 20 minutes. That's almost as long as a dolphin can dive. Compared to our closest relatives, the apes, we have a much more flexible spine. And we have partial webbing between our fingers and toes that they don't have. These are features for an aquatic environment.
These are
like to see a gorilla hold his breath 20 minutes.
Exactly. I'd like to see those motherfuckers swim. But yeah, you've probably shed a little tear, and I'm sad to tell you that in the Mermaids follow-up movie, Mermaids: The New Evidence, Dr. Robertson is shunned by all of scientists because he believes in the aquatic ape theory, he knows that mermaids are real. Right?
Yeah, right. He's too close. He's
he's too on the nose, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a world where the mermaid docs is real, that sucks for him to be shunned by all of science because he's seen a real mermaid, right?
Right.
But in a world where the aquatic ape theory is not real, I'm doing a little cackle and a little dance, right? Like, the whole movie is basically an exercise in creating fact from fiction. CGI mermaids are evidence. Badly photoshopped sepia photos are evidence. P.T. Barnum delivers evidence. Mermaids slam dunks fiction into a blender and calls it macaroni. Like Riley said above, this could have been a fun exercise in science communication, how evolution works, how natural selection works, what it means to live underwater, what is required of it, but it just did not give that. And we're going to go look at some pictures right now. And yes, I took them from my laptop facing my computer.
Yep.
So it's innovation, right? I was frantically taking notes. Okay, so here's my presentation. I took away the film strip.
There we go. Now, okay.
This is my mermaid evidence. Welcome, JD Mermaid Evidence, right? I took away the film strip, so even I won't see what's coming next. Well, let's surprise each other. Okay, first is these fucking characters. These absolute fucking characters in the movie that you're supposed to believe were just definitely real dudes that existed in real life.
Yeah.
They're like well-designed characters. This first
sweater vest we got.
Yeah, we've got sweater vest. We've got glasses vest. We've got German fishing boat man, right? Who just has evidence in his wallet. So my note on this was this dude really German? So here's one of the characters in the show, which gives away that this is very much actors and not real, right?
Ich habe meine Kamera geholt und ich habe das Bild genommen.
He just had a photograph in his wallet.
That's a big ass. That's not a wallet size photo either. That's like a full size CVS printout.
Right? So this absolute fucking character of a guy is there, and you're supposed to sort of believe that he's a real man, a real German man, who just has a wallet that perfectly has.
Right. This impromptu interview. They're just walking along the docks in Germany.
Pristine.
Mhm.
Shouldn't they just have
Not
weathered
folded
it?
at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
This is a man who fishes on the sea. His wallet looks old. You mean to tell me?
Incredibly crisp.
Yeah.
Incredibly crisp photo. Yeah.
Does he not sit down? What's going on with this man? Right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
that's Mr. German Man on a boat. Then we have this absolute fucking Bond villain. I'm telling you.
He's like a military guy.
Yeah.
Like they're trying to sell his authority.
This one's from Mermaids, the New Evidence Found. So he's supposed to be a member of the government, absolutely debunking new evidence. And he's just saying blah, blah, blah. But when I tell you that this man is an absolute Bond villain stereotype, you will know why. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You'll fucking know why.
Inflatable boat. They're taking the rib to coordinates dispatched to them to practice an at-sea rescue. Typically, dummies are placed in the water that the officers retrieve once they arrive on site.
But even you acknowledge that these weren't dummies here.
No, these officers stopped before arriving at the coordinates. They'd gone on record and admitted that they'd mistaken an animal for a live man overboard on
This man is a fucking Bond villain.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I'm going to go to the thing again. So, where are they? Where's the man? Okay, so man on this side, that's the absolute character. This is Dr. Robertson.
Yeah.
Shunned by the
Is
world.
that the one from last? Okay, wow, he's really gone wild.
Yeah,
man,
this is a
with the
year.
beard.
This is supposed to be a year later, and he's been shunned from the world, hiding away and shit.
He's been shunned from society entirely. He's living in like the woods.
Yeah, he went to the fucking woods because he's all that shit. And this is very real journalist John Frankel.
Oh, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're just like, what the fuck are you doing here? Right? So now that we've had that, we have next some of the beautiful photoshopping in this movie, which is once again I took pictures of. Right, hold on.
Yeah.
This is like evidence of this is a shark
of mermaids. Right, yeah.
with spears inside of it.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys are old-timey guys.
Mer spears.
Mer spears.
Yeah.
And this is like, evidence, right? So this is some of the evidence they use in the show. Next, we have some more. I think these are the best ones.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of just like, okay, this is kind of realistic-ish looking. Not even just because I took photos of them, not screenshots, but they are the best ones, right? And then we have sort of mermaids playing with dolphins, right? And which is probably the second, third best image because it's like far away and it's like, oh, blurry underwater, right? And then we have yummy, the mermaids. These are the fucking mermaids. Look at this.
If you're listening to this, please
go look at the fucking images.
Look at this. They look like real dolls, kind of like they're very, yeah, you're right. Uncanny Valley for fucking sure.
Yeah, the Uncanny Valley here is buck wild.
The speculative biology that they put into this so they don't really have cheekbones. They kind of just like shut straight into like occipital.
They have the sagittal crests right here.
They got the sagittal crest, so they can bite hard. Probably
they can crunch, right? They've got
kind of this is post Avatar, huh?
It's 2012.
So I believe that would be post Avatar.
Yeah, post Avatar.
So they've got kind of similar to the Na'vi skin markings. Yeah,
I believe they're blue, not just because of the water, but
they're like blue outside of the water as well,
right?
Yeah.
So we've got do
they have nipples?
We'll talk about sexual dimorphism in a second.
Mer nipples?
These are no nipple havers, right? Okay. So look at the emotion. This just heads up. These are the same guys right here.
Yeah. Oh, that's the same one.
So even that a little.
They look like the guys from Prometheus. I think that would be maybe the closest comparison I can think of.
Yeah. Okay. So these are the CGI mermaids that made me suffer at night because Uncanny Valley, and then we have here.
Yeah.
When I tell you that they randomly injected drama into this movie, why the fuck did they do that? We're going to watch this together, okay? They randomly injected drama in here. And this is not even like, this is evidence of mermaid. This is just like, this is
a little spice.
This is not even a reenactment. You can't even say in this fictional world, this is a reenactment of something that happened. But they just had this in the middle of the movie. And I was just like, what the fuck? Okay. So I'm going to hit play, but I'm going to make it big because I need everyone to fucking see the gorgeous of this. So this is literally titled, because why did they have drama? Okay. Okay, here. Just watch the faces. Watch the emotions. They're being attacked by a shark. Megalodon, right?
The Meg, for those unfamiliar.
Look at that emotion.
So we got our Prometheus guy. Oh, he just cut his own belly. He's going to lead the shark away.
Yep. No nipples, so.
No nipples.
Good for YouTube.
Well, but still breasts.
Yeah, there's still boobs.
Still boobs.
Right?
But no nipple.
That's kind of sad. Even I couldn't control myself.
JD commenting in the video. A heroic sacrifice.
Look at that. They injected drone. This is not even a reenaction. I'm telling you. Like,
yeah, he like closes his eyes. He's like readying himself for the death to come.
Yeah, why the fuck did they just have that? I literally was like, I don't remember this.
Is it to show that mer people have compassion and
like to sort of like humanize them to us, like anthropomorphize them,
yeah.
like they too can sacrifice and experience fear and sadness, right? Like
concepts of honor,
right? Kind of thing. So they had this, and I was just like, what the fuck? Okay, next we have the spears, right? So these, this is some of what the blue one is some of what they found inside of the whales and the things that were beached, because they're like, what is this? Where did you find this? And this is obviously belongs with the sepia photos in the beginning to be like, oh, we had old evidence, but we just didn't know that they're
We've known for a long time,
right? Yeah. That kind of thing.
Right.
And then we have our ancestors.
Okay, then these are the apes. These are the apes.
Yeah, this scene right here on the right is like our ancestors just like contemplating going into the sea, right? They've injected a lot of drama and emotion into this, right? They're very evocative faces despite being really constricted by SFX makeup. And then we have here the section where they're sort of like explaining like how we became bipedal. Right. Because like you can't be on all fours in the ocean because you'll drown. So you had to stand up. And then
and you can see how miserable you'd be with hair too because of all the water stuck in this special effects suit.
Yeah. So they're like, oh, you can see this in monkeys now when they go into the water. When they were usually running around on all fours, how come they stand up in the water? Instead of just kind of thinking like, well, they probably were like, well, you die in the water if you don't stand up. Yeah. Right.
I'd stick my face in there. So it's not good.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Then we have, again, the Cave of Swimmers direct like comparison, which is like, come on now, right?
Yeah.
It's so you've seen like everything, right? What's basically contained in this movie, and you're kind of like, I wouldn't believe that this is real.
All right.
Right. And well, I know you wouldn't, right? But some people did. Right. And one big thing that prevents me from being fully hee hee ha ha about this is that there is no obvious note that this is a fake documentary.
Right.
Aside from like CGI mermaids. Because you can be like, oh, well, yeah, well, obviously you can't have real reenactment of real mermaids because they're not around.
They're not union, so it's hard to work with them.
You can't, like, how much power? You really can't negotiate with people who are literally underwater for like long periods of time. You can't reach them. They're always moving around, so you're kind of just like, who's their point of contact?
On their cell phone.
Yeah. And you fucking jackass. Right. Well, you don't even know their number. Right. That kind of thing. Would it be international, like calling rates? That kind of thing. Yeah. Or do they have like Wi-Fi access? That kind of thing. If they're close enough to a cruise.
The undersea internet cables are down there. So like
they might have really good Wi-Fi.
They might have access. They might have good internet.
Yeah. So there's no obvious note that this is a fake documentary. When I watched it again, it's not in the beginning. It's not anywhere in it. Maybe it's at the end, right? That kind of thing, right? And there's bits about where they have like, this is a dramatic reenactment. And you're just like, what are you reenacting then? Then they have a guy who's like an anonymous source. He's like in the shadow, his voice changed, right? And they utilize real life reactions to the film in order to sort of twist things, right? So in the follow-up sequel, they use like real life tweets from like people who watch the show who are like, see, mermaids are real. Celebrities kind of reacting to it. And then to like tack on to like Ben's like government conspiracy related kind of stuff is like the federal government, NOAA was kind of like, hey, this isn't real. Guys, stop calling up the NOAA and asking us if our fucking mermaids are real, right? And they're basically in the sequel saying like, see, why would the government say this if this isn't real? Why would they deny it? The government is also...
We're over the target.
Right. Yeah, they're like, ordered it. And they're like I showed you before, the host of the sequel is a real journalist, John Frankel, who is, you know, a longtime HBO like correspondent, right? Why would you have a real journalist go on a fake show, right? Who knows? And here are some of the articles written post the film airing to sort of tell you that, like, obviously not everyone's believing into it, but it matters who bought into it, right? Some of the articles were saying like, here's a new low and supposedly educational television, because Animal Planet, right? It's a fake feature-length documentary that doesn't fess up to being fiction until a disclaimer pops up at the end. Until then, we have what looks like a slick documentary about the discovery of mermaids and a conspiracy to keep them hidden. Next is the 2-hour program is fiction, but it's presented in documentary style, with actors playing scientists who claim to have found the body of a mermaid on a Washington state beach. Next is from NOAA. I believe this is Catherine Kaplan. They handled it beautifully with aplomb, said Kaplan of NOAA's response to the brouhaha over the first Mermaid special. She added that she's pleased to note that you can't be sued by the government, even for making a living hell out of the lives of staffers at one of its agencies by airing horseradish masquerading as documentary poetry right there, right? Obviously, there's a bunch of articles that decimate the film's inability to outright tell you that it's fake and not real, but it is evident in Mermaids, the new evidence that they did just maybe not give a fuck, utilizing a real life journalist, bringing in more new evidence, calling on members of the government, and sharing screenshots of tweets from people who watched the film and absolutely bought into it, right? It's brought in millions of viewers. Like, why would we then be like, it was fucking fake, right? You go from 1.9 million views to 3.6 the next time around. We're not going to fucking be like, and actually, yeah, it was fake, even though we did tell you that it's science fiction.
Yeah, they're gonna double down on it.
Yeah. They're like, we did tell you it was science fiction. Why are you calling us out on it? Why is the government right? Admittingly, they did say it was science fiction in their press releases, but it gets a little funky when you add things like bringing in a guy who goes anonymous, real journalists, dramatic reenactment clips, playing into a lot of our general conspiracies and beliefs about the government. Andrew David Thaller's article, The Lasting Damage of Fake Documentaries Like Mermaids, The Body Found, argues that fake documentaries like this play a role in the decimation of science communication and education television, right? These documentaries play a lot into our fears and existing conspiracies about a lot of things: the climate, the government, cover-ups, foreign creatures, people, entities, and so many other things to be really xenophobic about, right? They have the ability to get in your distrust and fiddle around with it to make you want to watch something for curiosity and entertainment, while also a little bit getting into your head about all sorts of things, right? Misinformation by way of silly little fake documentaries is an actual thing, most especially when it's presented on channels like Animal Planet, History Channel, Discovery Channel, and its likes. Please love us regardless, all those channels, right? Educational TV, science communication TV has a reputation. Here is where you come to learn something based on general theme of the network. You learn about animals, biology on Animal Planet, History Channel, Discovery Channel. You have a little bit more flexibility because you're just discovering the world, right? So I presented those ideas to, we're an education and science communication TV, so now let's flip that shit and introduce ancient aliens to you. That's like the general gist of it, right? Fowler and buddy David Schiffman released an article aimed to help scientists who basically encountered the same shit from the Fiction from Fact section I had, which is called Fish Tales, Combating Fake Science in Popular Media. It presents ways that scientists can combat fake science by way of getting ahead of the game and also being aware of the game as it happens around you. Fowler points out that in the face of network giants, research orgs may not have the same bang behind their buck, so they have to work to get the shit right? I will say that like that kind of puts a lot of the onus on scientists and science communicators and educators to combat these things. Like he said, networks have a lot of money that research orgs or scientists don't necessarily have, education kind of thing, right? Their money is probably put into machines, office materials, foods, paying grad students, hopefully, please. It's got to be hard work to combat thousands and thousands of tweets that can drown out your corrections that aren't as entertaining as fiction, right? Especially when now, more than ever, we have a lot of anti-intellectualism going around, right? Phony Facts and Eco Media, Fake Nature, and the Call for Widespread Media Literacy by Paige Wallace. given to me by REP, argues in the same thread. Wallace brings up education washing, which is the idea that fiction and fact tend to get blended up when it comes to fake documentaries like this, right? Like I said, Discovery Channel, Animal Planet, and History Channel are partaking in education washing when it airs shows that are seemingly fact-based shows on animals, natures, and humans, alongside mockumentaries like Mermaids, The Body Found, Cannibal in the Jungle, Ancient Aliens, all these things, right? The article further argues that movies like this do have influence on its viewers, maybe not necessarily making them believe in mermaids or megalodon, but in the way that they consume facts and how they believe in it, most especially now in a world where alternative truths and fake facts exist, right? With all that being said, I am capable of whimsy and having fun, but I'm also a little bit of a hater, right? When I was younger, I think I enjoyed Mermaids because I liked the storytelling. I thought the CGI was freaky and kind of like insane. And I was interested in it as a fiction, right? I was the kid who had like the bestiary stuff because I wanted to like, how was this made? Where is this made? What was kind of thing, right? I very much at that time when this aired was in the peak of my belief in the paranormal and odd shit. I thought that doing parapsychology was interesting at Penn State because of Ryan Buell from Paranormal Investigation, whatever show. But I remember he's a scammer. Did he fake cancer at one point? Yes. But I fully knew that I was chicken shit and that my open-minded Filipino parents very much had limits. Yes, you can do whatever you want, but also you can't study ghosts. Right? That kind of thing. Fair. Right. Yeah. However, even as an adult who is capable of whimsy, comedy, laughing, this kind of irked me a little bit, especially in this time of fake news, alternative facts, battling each other for the truth and all that shit. I'm a hater, so what? Right? Like, listen, I love it when we get a little quirky and whimsical, but I do not always enjoy it when people go into watching a movie that's marketed as a documentary. Science fiction, maybe. And the distributor only a little acknowledges that it's fake. So it kind of makes people believe it's real one way or another, right? Yes, CGI in it exists, but you can't get a real mermaid on the show. So obviously that part's fake. But what about the rest? Right. I get that it sucks to be upfront about how fake something is. I get that everyone loves an organic Blair Witch Project moment where you sit there wondering, like, is this real? Right. But when it's on the channel that's supposedly touting informative series about animals, their cares and all that goes on around them, and it doesn't immediately at least say that something is not entirely real, it brings down that channel network program for me just a little bit. Right. Of course, we can say that people can Google, people can do independent fact checking and work on shit like this, but we can tell people to go do that. We can't assume that everyone was duped. Right. But you did hear the stuff that I said about using fact to create fiction and the responses used in the beginning of the sequel, right? We all have it in us to be duped. None of us are safe from this. We're not immune from propaganda, Garfield beam, right? Like I mentioned, we have an understanding that the government hides a lot of things from us, whether it be for the government's safety and security, not ours, because it's not just easy or better to talk about it. We hear about programs or initiatives that were dismissed as fake and just anti-government propaganda, but later find out that they were real, right?
Right.
Mermaids, The Body Found, and Mermaids, The New Evidence relies on that as a key element to selling the concept of both of the films, the second one most especially. Why would Noah issue a statement that mermaids aren't real? If it's not real, why would the government say anything about it? You could just completely ignore it because it's not affecting the government that much, right? Why would you? It's got to be because they're hiding something. It's like when you ask a friend if they have a crush and they're just like, no, I don't have one, but they won't look at you that. You're just now like, yes, you do. That kind of thing, right? And I once again, I'm capable of whimsy. I'm capable of understanding that this isn't an extended to all of us, right? Like, think of your aunts and uncles and cousins and friends who get duped by AI generated images or videos in different languages that are subtitled in English completely incorrectly floating around on Facebook, right? Think of this sort of like, oh, whimsy on them. Is it still whimsy and kind of funny if it's outright duping them because they're taking it for what it is, right?
Right.
Both films, I will say, are excellent when it comes to crafting a story. We're not strangers to the idea that fact could be used to create fictional stories. Stories inspired by blah, blah, blah exist, right? Like, to take it literally, like National Treasure, he's talking about real artifacts. He's talking about real Mount Washington. He's talking about the fucking Declaration of Independence. He's going to fucking steal it. Captain America, the Winter Soldier, literally, Bucky Barnes is responsible for every fucking thing that ever happened to the government, right? The Da Vinci Code, like, oh, there's hidden code and everything in the Vatican and they're blah, 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 right? And so many other films utilize real facts, real evidence, and twist them all around for entertainment. We don't need to worry about who killed John F. Kennedy because it was Bucky Barnes, that kind of thing, right? However, in this current state of the world where existing real events and artifacts and stories can get twisted for something else, it becomes a little bit less whimsical. I will, though, leave us with the following scene from the movie and a final note on one thing from the movie that I wish that most people will take away from the film.
I started thinking of them as fellow beings. And the last time we lived alongside a fellow human species was Neanderthals. We displaced them. Some scientists think we actively hunted them, that we devoured their very existence. It's the same thing. What we did on land, one of our own, we'll do in the sea. We're not so good at coexistence.
One thing we can learn from the film, other than how we should be better with media literacy, kind of examining the things that we watch and networks outright saying that this is not real, or being better about being coy about the reality of something, is something that Dr. Robertson said about coexisting. He recalls the difference between him and Dr. Brian McCormick, whose ultimate goal was to find the mermaids, deliver proof of them, and get back at the government for stealing and ruining their evidence. Right? Dr. Robertson points out that this is where they part in ideas, right? Because Dr. McCormick's goal is like, let's fucking find the mermaids. I want proof of them. They exist, blah, blah, blah. But Dr. Robertson no longer wants to show off the realness of the mermaids because he considers our human habit of destruction and experimentation with the unknown. He says, I started thinking of them as fellow beings, and the last time we lived alongside Neanderthals, we displaced them. We are not so good at coexistence, right? Like, I get it in many ways, because if we didn't care that we were beaching whales, choking turtles, bleaching corals, spilling oil, introducing mercury into fish, making monsters of orcas, what makes it seem like we'd give a shit about a new species that seem to be fighting for survival in a world that's getting smaller and smaller as greed goes bigger and bigger? That is JD on Mermaids, The Body Found. Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah. Fuck the mermaids. I mean, if they have oil, then maybe, but like...
Do the mermaids have access to oil?
Yeah. What resources are on mermaid lands? Can we exploit some lithium out of there? Or?
I believe that the mermaids have weapons.
Yeah. The mermaids form OPEC.
Yeah. Oh, God. But yeah, that's mermaids.
Yeah, that's kind of depressing. The state of media, of just like media literacy. I mean, to a certain extent, I think it's sometimes wrong to blame, people, because so much of this is done kind of in bad faith. And it can be about silly shit. It can be about mermaids, obviously. It can also be about more politically driven type shit. Yeah. Where, because when you can speak in the same kind of language as like an actual documentary or what we think of as an actual documentary, then you can say whatever the fuck bullshit you want. And as long as it has the aesthetics and the shared visual and the shared language of a well-researched doc, then you can pass it off as being of the same informational value.
Yeah. And it's like, I saw something on Instagram yesterday. It was like about like the delivery of something, the shortness of how you deliver something, the more confidence you have in it, the more believable it sounds, despite how absolute bullshit it is. Like the guy was like, well, women, females, you cry all the time and it feels better, right? Well, men have an equivalent and it's getting fucking angry. And he's saying it so confidently, so correctly because of the terminology that he's using. It's kind of like the idea of co-opting like language in order to speak about something that is that kind of thing. So yeah, it's like as a concept, if we removed mermaids from everybody's reactions to it and all the things that it's doing, as a fictional movie, it goes. like you could like this could have just been sold as like a really good fictional, because like fictional documentaries exist, right? Like the fictional music documentaries is like kind of thing, and then it goes, it's like actually pretty good.
Yeah, I feel like overall like that move in analog horror in the last couple of years, of like I'm gonna take credit for it because I made it and I want people to know that I made it. And I think like a similar thing is like, you know, like, yeah, Chris Foley, you're making kind of fun mockumentaries. You should be proud of that. You don't need to make people think that it's real. I think it's enough to be like, I'm making like cool found footage in the style of like a documentary type things about monsters. Yeah. That's fine. That's so like, that's nothing. There's nothing wrong with that as like your art form or your like way of securing the bag or whatever the fuck, however you view it. But I think when you're like taking steps like, well, this time we're going to hire a journalist, we're going to cast some people to look like government, we're going to style it so it looks like a news interview, we're going to use this footage that makes it look really like, without being straight up to people about what it is, then that's like, it's a little icky to me.
Yeah.
You know,
it's styled really beautifully in terms of like obviously when I was taking notes of it, like because I'm paying attention really, really deep kind of thing, I will notice that someone's like definitely like Dr. Robertson was probably the best of them when it came to like delivering the lines and reacting to it, because it felt a little bit more realistic. And if anything sounded practiced, it was probably because he remembered it off of like the article that he wrote or his notes kind of thing. But like the absolute characters that I showed you definitely was like, oh, they're remembering a script, they're remembering lines, that kind of thing. Some of them would like be a mix. Some of them were definitely like, this is our idea of two female scientists, right? Hot woman with glasses and her hair tied up in a business casual sit, you know, like that kind of thing. And I was just like she's remembering a script kind of thing. So like if you're actively paying attention to that, you can just be like, oh, like, yeah, these are definitely actors. And
right. I mean, that's the strong thing about having like more media literacy is being like, yeah, okay, I see what's going on here. But when they're like kind of like wink wink, like especially I think the worst shit is when people put like a disclaimer and then people are like, well, they have to say that, and it's like, yeah, they have to say it because it's bullshit. They're like, no, they have to say it because the government will come after them. It's like, yeah, because it's bullshit, not because like the argument of it being like, well, they're over the target is like a really big one in like conspiracy space where it's like, well, or like the idea that you're getting pushback because you're speaking some truth. Yeah. Sometimes.
So that's definitely like one of the biggest ones in the follow-up, which is like, Noah, like, you like, why would they care so much to rebut this when they're probably just like redirecting your attention of like, oh, mermaids are not real. Like it literally starts off with Dr. Robertson going and prefacing the whole thing of like, I do not believe in conspiracy theories at all, and I'm not the guy to do that. I believe we landed on the moon. I believe that person killed John F. Kennedy. However, right? So it's like the whole like, oh, even scientists have a little bit of a fear to expose this. Like, of course, they wouldn't be able to bring back the literal carcass of the mermaid that they found and that the South African government took it from them, right? Yeah. That kind of thing. And like it's very, it's like they use so many like cool strategies to like do things, and then we're like, what if we marketed it this way?
Right.
Like they didn't believe in it enough to just say this is entertainment, fully fiction. We have to kind of send out the press release that this is fiction, but based on a real fact. Because this is the press release from Discovery. Could there be some element of truth behind the legend of mythical mermaid? Mermaids, the body found, is a critically acclaimed science fiction special that blends real-life events and phenomena with the story of two scientists who testify they found the remains of a never-before-identified sea creature. Spectacular CGI animates a world where mermaids really do swim below the water's surface, cooperatively hunt with dolphins. Yes, they said critically acclaimed science fiction.
Right.
But it's like,
blending real with story.
And it's just like, okay, yeah, you looked up the cast and crew on IMDb. Why is the scientist being played by blah, blah, blah? And it's just like, yes, I'm capable of whimsy. This would have been such a good movie, but I'm also like, You know, that kind of, because you talk about it in the Montauk like thing where it's like guys in hazmat suits took away the body or did something. Like they literally have that as like a strategy here of like when the scientists came onto the scene, they saw guys in hazmat suits, and they literally had like, it was so funny to me, like men in black around the van projecting the like the hazmat suits guys. And it's just like the anonymous guy in the movie, he's like, I used to work for the government, and yes, we knew exactly what they were doing. We let it happen because they were getting the good research for us. But once they got too close to the real thing, we the kind of thing, and it's like the Navy sonic boom experiments is actually what led to this being found, and it's like building on like real things of like stuff. And it's like one of the fakest things that I experienced in the movie was like in the second one, another set of like underwater like it's like their job is like to go into the ocean like in a submarine 2 feet below the ocean, 2,000 feet below the ocean, which for reference the Titanic is like 12,500 feet and a mile is 5,280 feet, right? And they caught evidence of like a mermaid hitting their submarine, and then like the same exact sounds of the bloop, right? And as a result from that, because they're like not from the US, they're like from the Netherlands or Greenland or something like that. They were like, yeah, when we showed this to the government, actually they reacted by doing a total ban on doing any work in that area because they believe that if these creatures did exist under the ocean, we shouldn't bother them. And I was like, what government would do this? Respectfully, they're doing a total ban on there to go in there and find these things, not because they want to preserve the living creatures in there. No, they're gonna find those bitches, they're gonna open them up and that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's like the element of like, what's the term for knowing what you're doing? Competency. Like competency porn in these two a lot, right? Where it's like, look at these, the government knows what's really going on, or like somebody's really like behind it. Look at if you just peel back the curtain, you'll see that somebody is knows what they're doing, instead of just being like, oh, look at our president gradually like degrade in front of us.
Yeah, you just
or like whatever.
They're just ignoring us, bro. They don't fucking care. Like
they don't fucking care. Like they're all incompetent, greedy fucks. That's really like.
It's just like they're not doing like, oh, I've got my fingers in everything, so now I'm controlling everything. No, they just don't fucking care about us.
Next, I'll take over the ocean floor. There's this, right. It's
like it's insane. It's like this. Like Riley Black did say, like this could have been an excellent like exercise in like oh, look at what these people said and what happened as a result of it, like blah blah blah. But no, it's kind of just like conspiracy theory, sensationalism, the government.
I mean, it's always that appeal to sensationalism and to get more views, and just it's all very kind of cynical. I think to just it's a lot of the shit that is presented. I think especially when it comes from like networks, channels, bigger things. There's like always the profit incentive to make something that will get more eyes and that will make more money over something that has informational value, right? Like if you're like, that's why the Travel Channel is just like all ghost shit now. Like there's not like name one other Travel Channel show that's about actually fucking traveling, or just
and if it's like about travel or food, it has to be like some bizarre like certain things like travel tourism or like I'm eating bullet. For the first time, like, bro, just fucking get it. Like, it's
sensationalism. It's what gets out, and it's not. It's. I think that we also sometimes will kind of like look I think the American tendency is to be like, look how dumb people are. This is what they want, and it's like, no, this is like what makes money too. Like this is what like this is. There's two sides. There's two players here. Like they know what makes money. They know what gets eyes on it. Then it's controversy and it's bullshit and it's sensationalized shit. It's
it's a lot.
So
this is what the Montauk Monster, this is what the Mermaids documentary has done to us. Like, I'm saying it again, I'm capable of whimsy. I love this shit. But also,
I mean, look, if the Montauk Monster was real, if they found like an actual mysterious, like an alien, I don't fucking know. Whatever the fuck it was, something that was truly unknown, I'd be the first person on that beach trying to find it.
Be with a fucking Shermikes. Like, if mermaids exist, I would be further from the ocean as much as possible. Like, thank you. That's yours. That's yours. I'll be on the ferry. I'm going to San Francisco. I'm going to work. Please let me go. I love you.
But in this reality, it's just come like, on. We got real issues to work on here. Let's
Look at that. Our very happy beach episode. Our fun little beach episode. This episode was written and produced by Ben and JD. For all our sources, please head to the website in the description below or isympod.com if you would like to reach out with a comment. Evidence of the Montauk Monster being actually real? Mermaids? Suggestions or share an experience with either one of the creatures we've covered today, send us a message at icecreamyumi@gmail.com. All the music for the podcast is provided by Yager Frank. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Bye!